Welcome to In the Know. I'm Teresa Kucha. Today we'll be discussing volatility in the global markets, the key factors, and how this all relates to the IFC role. The crisis began back in 2008 with the explosion of the real estate and subprime bubbles, causing a number of illustrious bankruptcies.
In the last few weeks, we've seen events take place which would have seemed unimaginable just a couple of years ago. For months, television screens have been dominated by images of desperate men struggling to come to terms with the crisis in the global markets.
So, shouldn't you have seen this coming?
Well, it is true. We didn't actually foresee it in the strict sense of the word.
Or in any sense of the word?
Or in any sense of the word. No, we didn't foresee it, but when it happened, we did notice it. which is almost as good, isn't it?
More recently, the confidence crisis has engulfed national governments, both in Europe and in the US, as a fierce debate ensues as to which measures should be taken to tackle the problem.
My big, fat Greek financial crisis. After Greece joined the EU, the country went on a spending spree financed by cheap debt, which now has come back to haunt it. If Greece goes down, financial contagion will spread.
Factors indicating the U.S. is heading for a prolonged recession. Some experts are suggesting that the government should stop dumping all of our money into an enormous hole. Is it time to close the national money hole?
That kind of talk is alarmist and irresponsible.
America needs the money hole.
Right. Driving truckloads of money out into the New Mexico desert and dumping it into a massive pit is one of America's greatest traditions.
One fundamental, if extremely complex, macroeconomic law is that money makes the world go round. Now economists are adding a corollary to that. Credit makes the world go pear-shaped.
There are two kinds of credit activities. You could say depository banks sell money for promises. You could say investment banks sell promises for money.
Sounds promising.
George Parr, you are an investment banker.
Well, I don't think there's any call for insults or name-calling. You have to remember two things about the markets. One is that they are made up of very sharp and sophisticated people who, these are the greatest brains in the world. And the second thing you have to remember is that the financial markets, to use the common phrase, are driven by sentiment.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? Well, things, let's say, are just going along as normal in the market, and then suddenly, out of the blue, one of these very sharp and sophisticated people says, "My God, something awful's going to happen! We've lost everything. Oh, my God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do?
Shall I jump out of the window?
Shall I jump out of the window? Exactly. Let's all jump out of the window.
Sell!
We've lost a sell!
Sell! Yes.
Precisely.
Yes. Precisely.
Hello, good evening. It's a strange world we're in now when you go and see the bank manager about a loan and you don't know whether you're borrowing money from him or he's borrowing money from you.
Oh, the bank! Look at the bank! It's going to fall! Hey, my life savings in there!
But these are huge sums that we're talking about here. I mean, where in the end is all this money going to come from?
Are you going to take your eye off the spider? Or are you going to give it most favored arachnid status? Because you got to remember, if it weren't for China, we'd be in trouble.
According to popular legend, there are two things you can see from space: the Great Wall of China and the size of its foreign currency reserves. To some in the West, China's phenomenal growth represents a threat.
That is why whenever I visit China, I think it's extremely important that we encourage China to improve its performance on human rights and the environment, for the same reason that I always encourage young politicians to read the Bible. It won't stop them, but it'll slow them down for a few years.
So this is a dire situation. But how will it impact us? We have asked a Vice President of the IFC to provide some guidance to retreat members as to how their day-to-day activities are impacted by the world crisis.
There are things we know that we know. There are known unknowns. That is to say, there are things that we now know we don't know. But there are also unknown unknowns. There are things we do not know we don't know. So when we do the best we can, and we pull all this information together, and we then say, well, that's basically what we see as the situation. That is really only the known knowns and the known unknowns.